Something I would say to Roberta about feeling the pull of getting angry online, which I have certainly felt since the election. There's a lot of people I'm angry at because I don't like their posts, their tweets, whatever, is just to remember that it feels good when you do it because social media is engineered to incentivize that behavior and to make it feel validating, but it is not actually good for you, much less good for politics.
I'm Jon Favreau.
I'm Max Fisher.
It's a fun little holiday treat. Max and I are going to answer some listener questions. So we reached out in the Friend of the Pod Discord and on Instagram to ask you if you all have any questions for the show. Not the most offline method, but, you know, didn't have my carrier pigeons were all busy. We got a lot of great, very offline questions and some ones that I'm not sure how to answer.
Yeah.
Sorry, Maddie. Max couldn't tell us his favorite member of One Direction. I'm a Harry guy.
I don't know what that is or who that is, but congratulations to him and them. Harry Styles, sure. Yeah, he was in Dunkirk. No, Green Knight. It doesn't matter.
No, yeah, you were right. You were right. Roberta asks, this election cycle produced the worst left-leaning infighting since the 2016 Democratic primaries. Produced. It ain't over. We also saw and continue to see more conspiracy theories. I admit I've been lured somewhat by the Blue Anon Sirens call. I appreciate that, Roberta. Specifically around the ear-snipping sniping. I had to read that a couple times to understand what Roberta was talking about. And then I got
Roberta it. Crafted a hell of a question.
She
Shout
really
out to
did.
Roberta. You're a great writer.
Big time. All right, so her question is, what do you think is going on? What do you think the source of this is? Are we just post-COVID crazy people now?
I have to tell you, I think 2020 was so much worse. The infighting during the Democratic primary was so toxic and so vicious. I just
honestly, from 2016 through the 2020 election, it was 4 years of it.
I know. Yeah.
And now it's back.
It is back.
We picked up where we left off.
I know. I'm not sure it ever really went away. I mean, look, I think this is just, it's all of the elections. Like when it happens 3 elections in a row, it's not about the particulars of the election. It's about social media. And I think social media just encourages you to see the world in terms of this like ultra minute, narrow factionalism. And anyone who is 1/1000th of a degree to your left or to your right is a monster who has to be expelled from the party. Yeah. And it's just not conducive to talking about an election with a lot of people who might have very slight disagreements with you.
And yet, where else are we going to talk about it?
I know.
No, I mean, I have to say I'm not surprised at all. Like I said to many people and thought to myself before the election, I'm like, if we lose this one, the infighting is going to make 2016 look like nothing.
What made you think that?
Because, you know, you elect Donald Trump once.
Yeah.
Shame on him. You like
right,
the twist.
Right. Yeah.
And you know, it's like we've already been through 4 years. He did, you know, incite an insurrection. I knew it was going to be bad.
Yeah.
And in some ways, it's understandable. Like we lost to Donald Trump. People are angry.
Yeah.
Afraid.
Yeah.
Exhausted.
Yeah.
And those don't make for happy people when they're debating. We had a very broad, fractious coalition.
Yeah.
That was barely held together by the common goal of beating Donald Trump. And so it's natural that after that doesn't work, after we didn't succeed, that people are going to start debating. And I think some of it is necessary and hopefully it's productive.
It can be a healthy process.
One thing I'm trying to do, and I, you know, would urge everyone else to do, is just like interrogate my own priors.
Yeah.
You know,
it's
so
hard.
it was like,
it's really hard.
Okay, things that I think it's easier to be like, okay, the thing I've always believed and no one listened to, now it's just the election results proved me right.
Right.
And I think we all do that. I've done that. And what I'm trying to do now is really like dig in and be like, is that right? Is there another view? Should I think about the other view? Like, so that's good. I think that's
healthy.
One way to do
and
it.
it's a good thing to do off social media because you will always find something on Twitter or TikTok or wherever that confirms your priors and that tells you that you were right and righteous, and anyone who disagrees with you shouldn't be listened to. Something I would say to Roberta about feeling the pull of getting angry online, which I have certainly felt since the election. There's a lot of people I'm angry at because I don't like their posts, their tweets, whatever, is just to remember that it feels good when you do it because social media is engineered to incentivize that behavior and to make it feel validating, but it is not actually good for you, much less good for politics. So don't chase that cheap, empty high.
I will say though, there's no cheap empty high for me. It's all cheap empty lows. And I don't even post expecting that it's going to make me feel good anymore. I don't post expecting that I'm going to get anyone replying saying I agree with you.
Yeah.
No, I'm thinking like I finally wrote that piece.
Yeah.
But it's like I go on there being like, I want to say what I think.
Right.
And maybe it'll land with some people who aren't replying, and the people who are replying it probably won't land with, but maybe someone will read it and it'll spark something, and it'll, who knows.
Yeah.
On the conspiracies, because she asked about that too, like I do think like we always need to explain. We look for explanations for the inexplicable.
Right.
And whenever we get bad news, our first reaction is like, this can't be happening.
Right.
And I think that can lead to, especially in a very online environment, a search for conspiracies, right? And I think the ear sniping would fall into that, because I think a lot of Democrats, when that happened, after you get over the sheer horror of the attempted violence, or the violence, you think to yourself, oh God, this is the end. A lot of Democrats thought this is the end of the election.
Right.
It's over. And then you're like, well, it's got to be something then. It's got to be staged, right? Because we want an explanation.
Right.
Guisen, enemy from within asked, is the internet real life now?
Oh, I see this one. No. The internet is not. The internet was, I think, a little bit more real life in this past election, in that I think it did play a real role in Biden dropping out. I don't know that it would have happened without Twitter, because we just needed a place for all these progressive Democratic elites to coalesce around this decision that he had to drop out. But I think that ended pretty quickly, and Twitter continues to not be real life. And I think becomes less real life every day, because people are falling down these rabbit holes of identity confirmation, bias confirmation, that just pulls them further and further from reality. And I see it in my friends.
I have come to develop a slightly nuanced view on this now that's different before. The people who participate in internet discourse, whether it's Twitter or any other platform, are not representative of the broader population. That remains true. We know that for a fact. That's all the data shows that. But internet discourse itself doesn't just have a impact on real life. It has an outsized impact on real life, because it includes a disproportionate number of influential people.
Sure.
Figures from politics, media, business, literal influencers.
Right. Right.
And so I do think there's a dynamic there that I would love to keep exploring, that we haven't quite wrestled with, which is like, we're all swimming in this morass of social media garbage. And yet, I think part of what we saw in this last election is it did have an impact on how actual people who might not participate in the discourse voted, or at least thought about politics, because they got just like an algorithmic mix of opinions and takes that started to shape their perception a little bit.
I think that's true. And I think it influences mainstream media coverage too.
Yes,
for sure. Which is weirdly not something that matters as much for elections now, because people who consume mainstream media are like 99% Democratic voters, but it does still matter for, how our society operates.
Yeah, because my example on this is like, say you're someone who doesn't pay close attention to the news or doesn't consume the news much at all, but maybe you're on TikTok, and you aren't even on TikTok a lot, but the two TikToks you see before the election, and maybe they don't I don't say they make your decision for you, but they have an effect.
And TikTok does represent a huge number of Americans.
Yes.
It's a really significant pool.
For now.
Yeah, right.
We'll see.
Give it a couple weeks.
Mariner asked, hey Mariner, I was talking to Mariner in the Discord this week. How do you feel about having created a social media space for a show that was about the dangers of social media, that is increasingly just a space to talk about the discourse on other social media? So, great question.
A fair hit, I'm going to be honest.
First I would say, I disagree slightly that we're increasingly just a space to talk about discourse on other social media. Just since the election, we've talked about TikTok, as I just mentioned, the latest legal and political developments, not just the discourse on TikTok. We just did an entire episode about talking to strangers face-to-face about politics with Dave Isay. We talked about the new FCC chair, Joe Rogan, Trump's approach to tech and the internet, how to make democracy work in the information environment. But yes, we absolutely spend a lot of time on social media discourse. I think it's fair to say we probably spent more time as the show has evolved. I think we do it for two reasons. One, we do it when there is important political or cultural dimensions to the discourse,
Mhm.
or frankly because it's fun and we could use a laugh, and that
Yeah.
is always going to be
Yeah.
part of the show, because I think we need to laugh once in a while, and if there's
Right.
something funny on social media, then
Yeah.
let's say it.
Yeah.
In general, though, I think about this almost like people who critique capitalism, right? Which is
Mhm.
like, we can talk about the dangers of capitalism and how to make it work better.
Mhm.
We're not getting rid of it,
Yeah.
and we're all part of it.
Right.
We're got to participate in the system. And so I think you can talk, and like I think the same is true of social media. Like,
Mhm.
I mean, at least for me, some people are never going to have to be on social media if they don't want.
Sure.
But like, our job is politics and news and media, and so we're unfortunately going to have to be on social media. So part of the show is what's happening there, and part of it is how to deal with it in a healthier way,
Mhm.
which is not just unplugging, which we said even during the offline challenge, but like figuring out how to deal with it in a healthier way.
I got this question constantly when I was doing my book tours. It's like, how can you write a book about how social media is bad and yet be on social media yourself? And it's like, it's a fair question. And I would always give the same answer, which is that social media shapes our world, whether I am specifically am on it or not. So I do
That's
need
right.
to use it to just like understand the effect it is having. Now, at the same time, I think there probably is a little bit of like, I really backslid on my screen time during the election, spent a lot more time looking at my phone. So what do you know? I spent more time being angry about tweets and skeets that I saw on my phone. So I brought it up more on the show. But I do think that we are in a moment where we are thinking about the impact of social media on our politics, on the party, on kind of how we're processing what's happening.
Yeah, and for me, I'm thinking I'm actually not spending a lot of time scrolling through social media. Hard to
Really?
believe.
Good for you.
I'm thinking a lot about the election, what comes next, and I'm getting a lot of thoughts about them, reading a lot, and I need to put them somewhere.
Yeah.
And like, I know I do a bunch of podcasts and do them there, but sometimes it, as I learned when I wrote out the piece, I'm like, sometimes it just helps to write stuff down or
Mhm.
share stuff. And I wish I could do it in a place that wasn't so toxic, but there's no place that exists.
You know what? If only there
Don't
was,
tell me about Blue Sky.
If only there was a microblogging service somewhere that didn't have Twitter's algorithm or ownership structure, but I just don't know what that would be. I just don't know. If only someone with a background in tech, maybe who's worked at Twitter, but there's not. If you know of one,
let us
please
know.
write into John. Let him know, because he's really looking for that kind of a place.
I like that. Miri Nuzo asked, if we all went back to flip phones, what would you miss most?
Oh my God. I loved this question because we've gotten versions of this before, but it's if you didn't have your phone, the idea of everybody giving up their phone and going to the flip phone all at once. I started jotting down some notes on what that would look like, and it looked like the lyrics from Imagine by John Lennon. No hell below us, above us only sky, no one to kill or
what
die
color
for.
Of the sky? What color is the sky?
It's blue, John. I mean, it's a beautiful thing to imagine. The world would be so different. We can't even like get into, I mean, we'd be less polarized, less angry, conspiratorial, but I would also be personally lost all the time if we didn't have smartphones.
Like physically
Physically,
lost.
I have a terrible sense of direction.
You and Emily, my Emily
really?
does too, yeah.
Does she have to use maps to go like even to the same places she
No,
goes all the time?
it's more like we walk out of the hotel room, we go down the hall, we come back.
Oh,
and
those
it's
hotels are mazes. All the hallways look the same. No, she's right on this one.
But also directions. But she's confident in the direction, right? Like, I know we're supposed to take this left.
And then you're just circling the hotel for.
Yeah.
The connector between my phone and the thing in my car broke, so I don't have maps on it right now. It is 3 turns from my home to my office, and I had to pull over to look it up on my phone. I don't know how to get anywhere. I can't do it.
That was like my first 2 years in LA, I will say.
LA is confusing.
Yeah.
Also, I'm stupid.
I would miss the texting.
Yeah. No,
Like, I know you can do on the flip phone, whatever, but when we tried to do that for a little bit, the texting is I didn't use it at all.
When we went
texting's impossible.
When we went to flip phones, the one thing that I was like, my life is worse off for not having this is group texting and FaceTime.
Yeah. Yeah, that would be mine. All right. Last question. Cacti and Cats asked, will there be another offline challenge this year? And John, will 2025 finally be the year you seriously consider limiting your interactions on Twitter No. No. I said this on Terminally Online if you heard it, but my resolution for 2025, I'm getting in more Twitter fights.
Are you really? Good for you.
And
Getting
more
out
Blue
there.
Sky fights, too.
Who are we fighting with? Who's target number one?
I don't
Do you
really
have an enemies
It's not
list?
really fights.
Okay.
It's but I am
Spirited exchanges.
And I don't even know if there'll be exchanges, but I'm posting. I am posting.
You're getting out there.
I'm
I
just
mean, as
putting my
long as you're
thoughts out
getting the
there.
screen time down, I sanction it.
I have thoughts, and I am going to share them. And
do
if you don't
love-
like them, you can unfollow me. That is totally fine. You can write back all kinds of nasty things. That's okay, too.
That's these. I'm just going to tweet list personally. That's my journey. I'm going to try to get off my phone, but
Yeah.
you know,
I'm getting off my high horse here.
we're A/B testing.
I'm on my very low horse.
we're all coping in our own ways.
I am not holier than thou.
But the answer to Cat's
Oh, yeah.
question
Yeah. Why don't you?
is that yes, we are going to be doing another offline challenge. It's going to be focused on, I don't know how much we want to give away, but we're going to change the focus a little bit.
Let's do it.
Okay.
You said the word.
It's going to be about focus.
It's going to be about focus.
It's going to be about not just putting down your phone. It's going to be how do you maintain your attention span? How do you focus what you want to focus on? What's going on in your life? And I'm excited for it.
Yeah, Emma came up with the idea, and it's a brilliant idea, and we're all very excited, and we're working it out now. And it's nice because it's an offline challenge. It's not exactly like what we did before,
Sure.
but it's going to be, I think, focus and attention are incredibly important.
And we're going to have lots of ways for people to follow along, things that you can do at home to work on your focus and attention as well.
Yes. All right. A few quick housekeeping notes. First, Cricket Limited series. We got a bunch that we've had over the last year or so, and they're fantastic to listen to. You can unravel the mystery of a prominent judge's death in Killing Justice. You can follow the shocking transformation of a Chinese civil rights activist into a MAGA Trump supporter in Dissident at the Doorstep. Or you can immerse yourself in the hidden history of America's largest police force with Empire City, the untold origin story of the NYPD, named one of the top podcasts of 2024 by Time Magazine, Vulture, and the New York Times.
And by me.
And by Max Fisher, too. It just belongs right in that list. Binge these series and more at crooked.com/limiteds or find them wherever you get your podcasts. Also, Crooked's Friends of the Pod subscription is offering an exciting 25% off new annual subscriptions through the end of the year. If you're feeling anxious about 2025 and the avalanche of headlines, news alerts, and Trump-adjacent puppy killers it will bring, you're not alone. Crooked is here to make sense of what matters, what it all means, and what we can do about it rather than constantly freaking out about all the what-ifs. Rest assured, we will still freak out sometimes. And your subscription will support all of that work. You'll also get ad-free episodes of Pod Save America, subscription-exclusive shows, and access to our lively Discord community. I will tell you one New Year's resolution, as I also said that I'm going to dive into more Twitter and Blue Sky exchanges. But I'm going to try to spend more time on Discord talking to our wonderful subscribers. We've had some great conversations in the last couple weeks. And you can yell at me there. You can disagree politely, which most people are doing.
Sure.
And we had some great productive discussions. It's really fun. So check it out. Subscribe now at crooked.com/friends or through the Pod Save America feed on Apple Podcasts.